Well, joining me now is Olivia Enos, who's been following events, and she's an analyst at the Asian Studies Centre of the Washington-based Heritage Foundation. She's in Hanoi for us. Olivia, what now? Is there a receding hope that progress can be made after the breakdown of these talks?
President Trump made the right decision to step away from the talks at this time. The terms that had been laid out were wholly unacceptable. Essentially, North Korea was promising incomplete denuclearization, but requesting complete removal of sanctions. At the same time, North Korea has refused to discuss some of those undisclosed nuclear facilities that we know from both satellite imagery as well as U.S. intelligence exist. There are upwards of 20 sites that North Korea has not disclosed to us. And it sounds like President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and the U.S. negotiating team were really pressing North Korea on those undisclosed locations, which contributed to the breakdown in the talks.
Was it a mistake for President Trump to hold these talks at all, without perhaps having done enough groundwork to see what the offer was going to be?
I think the Hanoi summit is certainly a cautionary tale to the Trump administration that truly the text of whatever the agreement was clearly wasn't agreed upon by both sides. And there's a need to actually have those really technical details hammered out before we come in such a public way and grant legitimacy to a brutal dictator, an individual who possesses this rogue missile and nuclear program and has between 80,000 to 120,000 individuals in political prison camps. This is not a nice guy who we're negotiating with, and we need to make sure that he's agreeing to things on the U.S. terms, that North Korea isn't setting those terms themselves.
On the other hand, although President Trump's diplomacy style might be criticised, at least, both sides are talking. Isn't that a positive message that at least channels are open?
The question coming out of Hanoi is whether or not those talks are going to be able to continue. I completely agree with you. I think the most important talks aren't taking place at these various summits, either in Singapore or even here in Hanoi. The most important, really difficult technical work is happening in those closed-door meetings. So the big question going forward is whether or not the U.S. and South Korea can encourage North Korea to come back to the negotiating table and continue those talks so that we can get things like promise of IAEA inspections or request a full data declaration so that we actually know how many nuclear weapons, how many missiles, how many biological and chemical weapons North Korea actually has in its possession in order for us to be able to determine whether denuclearization is in fact taking place.
And Olivia, is your sense from the Trump administration side of things that they think this is an issue they've championed? There's been these huge public summits that they want really now to try and push this further, or is your sense that they're going to roll back their efforts, slow down their efforts?
North Korea has been a central part of the Trump administration's policy toward Asia. I would say almost from day one, this has been a policy priority for the administration. I think it's going to continue to be a policy priority, and I think that President Trump, in walking away from the summit, is hoping that he's going to be able to use that almost as a negotiating tactic. And hopefully what we'll see in the weeks and months ahead is a return to the maximum pressure strategy, or that sanctions strategy that we had against North Korea. And maybe let's actually make it maximum pressure this time by targeting Chinese banks, which so far the U.S. has avoided actually sanctioning. But we know that they're laundering money for the North Korean regime, and we know that we need to press them hard in order to get them to come back to the table.
Okay, Olivia Enos from the Heritage Foundation. They're live in Hanoi. Thank you very much indeed for your time.